This
All
conference
right.
will now be recorded.
Welcome everybody to Lunch and Learn. Today we're going to go over job scheduling and Barb's going to be your presenter. Barb, I'm going to kind of mute myself and I will watch for questions in the chat window. So folks, if you end up with questions, just go ahead and type them into chat and I'll announce them for Barb. This is being recorded and we will post it up on our YouTube channel probably towards the end of the month once we've got this month's all done, and I'll be sending out an email that says when those are available. So with that, I will turn it over to Barb.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Today we're going to be going over job scheduling. Job scheduling is a very intense, labor-intense product to use, and so we're just going to touch on a few basics today. We're not going to learn all about job scheduling, just what it does. So if you are going to go into job scheduling, you're going to need 3 modules. You would need the job management schedule, the order management, module, the order management module, and the scheduling module. There are certain requirements that need to be met for job scheduling. One is there should be a list of operations to be completed and the order they must be done. This would be your routing or your bill of operations. You need estimated times to set up machines and to perform the actual manufacturing operations. And you would need a target start date or completion date. The system will do either one. So what do we need to schedule? Well, we need somebody to schedule. We need somebody, at least one person, can be multiple people, that look at our capacity and manage that capacity, that prepares our shop paperwork. They communicate this info to production, material planning, and sales. Communication is critical to this job function. They finish jobs on time or ahead of due dates. They sequence the work in order to make the most efficient use of the resource, and they maintain high quality. There are hindrances to scheduling as well. If we have uneven resource loads and overloaded resources, they would hinder our scheduling and the timing of our jobs when they're due. And we add to that emotional aspect, which is that some customers/orders are more important than others. This creates all kinds of consternation on the shop floor because we know that we need to get some people done before we do others. When we do job scheduling, it's capacity management, and it comes from both the sales and the production side. So on the supply side, we need to know how much available hours do we have and how much capacity do we have to do a job. On the demand side, how much do we need? What's coming in from our customers and what kind of load or demand for time is on a resource? We need to look at, for capacity, hours per resource day, per resource per day. We need to look at the limits to the number of resource hours, and we need to look at resource efficiency, which is our actual time on a resource versus our estimated time. So some of the tools that we have for scheduling, I will show you in a moment. We need to develop a production calendar. You could have multiple production calendars on in your system based on the number of people that you have, the number of shifts that you have. So you could have one production calendar, you can have multiple. You might have some resources where you have a first and a second shift. You may have some resources where you have a first, second, and third shift. So you would want to make sure that you have a production calendar for each one of those. We also want to put holidays in there because the system is going to take a look at how many work hours we have available and then try to schedule those jobs during those time period. We also want to attach our resource groups to the calendar. As I said, that would have to do with things like your welding group might have a different one than your CNC group would have a different production calendar. There are several boards that we use when we're scheduling. The resource scheduling board, the job scheduling board, and the multi-resource scheduling board. We also have an overload informer board. The overload informer board only works if you do infinite scheduling. It does not work for finite scheduling. So what's the process that we take for job scheduling? One is we create a job or a method of manufacturing. In that job, we define the job details, which include the quantity that we're manufacturing. We put our production standards in there. So we would put materials, labor burden, and we would put a resource group and resource as we build the job. Then we actually engineer the job. So we have a start date or an end date. Again, this depends on if you are forward scheduling or backward scheduling. We want to take a look at the resource schedule to make sure that we can actually produce this product that we're making in the schedule. We would adjust our schedule for the jobs or our resource schedule as necessary. And then we can review the schedule impact report. So we can actually do what if planning when we do the job scheduling. So I'm going to switch over to the Kinetic screens, if you'll bear with me for a moment, and we'll go out there and take a look at those screens. Ken, are you able to see that, Fred?
Yep, I can see your Kinetic homepage right now.
Okay, great. Is it big enough?
Go ahead and maximize it, but the other screens will pop up and you can maximize those when they pop up too if you want.
Okay. So we're going to take a look at a couple of jobs. I'm in the, obviously, the Kinetic version. Let me switch over to Pure Kinetic. Give me a second to log in here. And what we're going to do in this session is we're going to take a look at the scheduling board. So we're under production management and we're under scheduling. And we want to go to general operations. And I have a few jobs in here that we can take a look at. So I'm going to look for jobs number 20, 31, 37, 38, and 42, just so that we can get a feel for what this looks like. Let me go back and pick one more job. There we go. Now they're all four on our screen. So what we want to do at this point is we're going to take a look at these particular jobs. And we could look at 100 jobs. We could look at jobs by their description. We can look at jobs by start date. This is just a sample database. And so I've picked out some so that we can see what happens when we schedule the job. So this is coming from the system. You'll see that you get a Gantt chart type of a visual. I'm going to type in 9/21/2021 because that's where I know my jobs are. And over here on the right, you can see where the jobs are actually shown. This tells me where this job is starting. I can move this job to the 21st. And don't worry about this. This is because it's in a test database. And it will start moving things for me. It'll start telling me how I'm changing the overall picture of my schedule. If I double click on the job number, now I can see my operations specified out and what dates those are for. And here I can go down to my, so I've got my resource, now I've got resource group, now I've got my resources. And you can see these resources are not expected to take a whole lot of time to begin with. The long bar here is for an outside service. So it's telling me that it's going to go out and it's going to come back in. And so it's giving me a warning that this is going to take quite a bit of time. I can move this out. Again, don't be alarmed by that. This tells me that I've heard from my outside service supplier and they're going to move out when we get this job. So obviously I need, my ship date is going to be in error and I'm going to want to move that out as well. We can play with the what ifs. This one only has a short period of time and it's telling me to watch out that I'm moving something that we may not want to move. It only uses my assembly department here, and I've got two different assemblies. I can say, I want to go back and I want to review this job. So I'm going to look at these three buttons here on the left-hand side, and they're going to give me details about the job. They're going to take me to job entry if I want to go back and I want to actually view how I built the job, and I can actually move this job to a new date. So if I don't like what I see in job entry for the job, I can go back right into the job and I can reschedule it. And there's our job. So I can unrelease it, unengineer it, change information in here. I might want to change my due date. I might want to change my required date. So I can make whatever adjustments that I need to on this particular board. In the new Kinetic, if you haven't learned it already, there are, anytime you see three dots, make sure that you use them to change information. So I can toggle my move time. I can toggle my original time for any one of these operations. I can also go to the resource schedule load graph and the site schedule. Yesterday, this didn't work for me. We'll give it a try and see if it'll work today. No, it's not going to work for me today. So let's go back to the job scheduling board. And we'll go back to job management and see if I can get it from the resource scheduling board. So here you can see all of the different things that I talked about originally, about how we can change our scheduling. We can calculate global scheduling. Global scheduling happens when we have dates in our system and everything is recorded correctly in the jobs. We can calculate global scheduling. The same thing with order entry. We want to make sure that the dates are all in place and that we have the basic resources so that we can calculate, the system can calculate for us before we even adjust. We'll try this resource scheduling board and go to just an assembly. Now on the resource scheduling board, you have to watch the dates two times. One is, let me find out why this is being difficult. Change. We'll pick this one. We want to make sure that the dates here are the same dates that we've been working with. So we're going to type in 9/21/2021, and we want to type in 10/1/2021. And up here on the right-hand side, we want to view the schedule for that particular resource. I'm going to change this back to resource group and type in ASM. I think we'll get a better visual. Okay, we have to put in the date yet a third time. So for whatever reason, Kinetic requires us to do this. So we'll put in the date a third time, and now we can see we have a different way to cut and dice this. Now we have it by resource group and part number. So we can expand this out. This is the assembly. This is the operation that we're looking at. And so now all we're looking at is the assembly resource group and how we are loading it or overloading it. If we have two shifts and we have enough time here, this may not be a problem. If we don't have enough time, we may have to move this out, and it will give us this message to say that we want to backward schedule the job or forward schedule it. So we're going to backward schedule it and put that into our new schedule. You can see that the system started to move other operations that were dependent on that particular resource group. So we've got, we can move this job in one area or another and schedule it. Here we have other information that we can take a look at as well. We can signature, we can queue it for MES so that they'll get it out on the shop floor. We can look at the load level for this particular item. 92121. And you can see it's calculating, and it would have changed our load. Again, the three jobs here. We can move the job, we can lock the schedule, we can view the details for this particular assembly. So we have all sorts of ways to go back and refresh. Let's go back to our general ops, and we can look at the overload informer if we are, again, if we have infinite scheduling. We can save what we've done now on the resources so that those impacts have, that has changed. We can look at our customer, all of our different trackers to see what's going on. Our reports, job traveler, you may want to reprint your job traveler once you change this. You can change your shop load. You can print what your schedule impact is going to be. Let's browse really quick at our scheduling setup. You can see that you can do different things. We're going to look at the production calendar really quick. And if I click on this particular calendar and I click on hours per day, there's my shifts. So this particular operation works Sunday through Monday through Friday, does not work Saturday or Sunday. So I can change my work days. If I have a holiday, for example, I may want to put in the 4th of July holiday, for example, in the schedule so that my employees are not working that particular day. Also in setup, we can take a look at our operations or our resource groups. Let me bounce over here to our resource group. We were working on assembly, and you can see that here, if we were finite scheduling, this is where you would put nothing in there for infinite scheduling. We can put the capabilities, and here's where we attach it to the calendar. So any calendar exceptions would be put in here as well. I think that's about it for today, unless somebody, I would entertain questions.
And if you've got any questions, go ahead and type them into the chat window. If you joined us late, this is being recorded and we'll get it out on our YouTube channel probably towards the end of the month. Uh, you can sign up to receive notifications when those videos are posted. If you're not sure if you're on that list, just send an email to sales@codabears.com. We'll get you in that list for sure. Um, and I do recognize I've had a couple questions from our previous Lunch and Learns. People were saying the information is kind of basic. We wanted to do that because with Kinetic coming out, a lot of people aren't used to seeing the information in Kinetic. So that's why we're kind of doing this series, getting people acquainted with how to do these steps in Kinetic, whether it's their first time in Epicor or whether it's their first time in Kinetic. Some of those things have changed from Classic, so that's why we're focusing on some of the basics again to get people caught up. Plus, it's been a while since we've done basics, so people are kind of catching up. We've got a question from Elijah. Barb, what are the three modules that are needed? You talked about at the beginning of the talk. Do you have that slide
Sure,
handy or can you tell them?
I do have that slide handy. Just give me a second and I will pull it back up. So the three slides are the three modules that you need are job management, order management, and scheduling. There is an advanced scheduling module as well, but you don't need to use it for most of the basic job scheduling tasks. The reason why you need job management is because that's where you're actually doing the each one of the operations that you're going to use, and that's where you're attaching your resources to it. Order management you need because that's where you're going to get your start dates. When is this job required? What product group does it belong to? Because you can cut and dice and actually inform your customers that you may or may not be able to produce it in the time that they're requiring in their sales order or their quote. And then obviously scheduling is where we do all of the information that we were just looking at. So you do need those three schedules.
And a question from Mike. Are you seeing any additional function and features in 2022.2 for scheduling? So compared to previous versions, are you aware of any additions, Barb?
I've been told actually there's some subtractions, some stuff that you could do before that you couldn't do in this particular version. You may want to go back to the classic on some of the setups. It might be easier, but most of the functionality stayed about the same.
All right. Any other questions? Just go ahead and type them into the chat window and we'll hang out for another couple minutes just in case folks are still typing here.
The difficult part about training this particular module is the training would actually take about 8 hours to really get through teaching you how to schedule a job. This is just a taste of what do the screens look like, what are the basic requirements, and what kind of issues might you be up against for scheduling.
Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions. We'll hang out for just a little bit longer if you do have questions. And Barb, thanks again because I've got the reminder down there for you that you were doing this on your vacation day.
I am.
So I
I'm
appreciate you
leaving
taking
for
the time.
camping shortly after this.
Awesome. All right, I'm not seeing any more questions, so we'll go ahead and end it here. If you do have questions, feel free to send those to sales@codabears.com. We can try and answer them offline as well. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Thank you, Barb, for taking time out of your vacation for us. And we'll see
Sure.
everybody for the next Lunch and Learn next week.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Bye now.